Hi, I'm Jonathan Young. In this video, I'll be making this very old antique mahogany coffee table into a custom barn door for a customer's remodel. I'll be hanging it between their master bedroom and their master bathroom. So I'll start by removing all the different parts, like these legs. I'm looking for pieces that I can use on the door. My whole intention with this project was to not use any new materials or hardware on the door, but rather to salvage as many things from the old as I could. The coffee table was too wide and too short to be a door, so I had to cut the sides off, which I'll then cut in half and add to the top and the bottom to make the panel narrower yet taller. So here I am looking at how to reconstruct it with the different pieces. I need a door that's strong, but also is going to look good. The best way to reconstruct this door is to use festool dominoes. These are little mortise and tenon joints that, when done properly, allow the wood to still expand and contract without pulling itself apart. So on some of the little dominoes, I used glue, and on others, I left them dry to allow them to slip a little bit in the joint. This way, when the door expands and contracts over the seasons, it won't crack the wood apart. These are those two boards that I'm mounting to the top and the bottom of the door to bring it up to full height. I needed some trim, both to cover up the gaps, make the door look better, but also so that there's a little gap behind the door, between the door and the wall. With a sliding door, or a barn door, you want the door to hug the wall as close as possible, so when the door is in the closed position, as little light shines through from the backside as possible. Being between a bedroom and a bathroom, privacy is important. Here I'm using the two pieces that I just sawed on the bandsaw to cover up this joint between the two new lower boards and the original coffee table panel. Here I am back at the bandsaw cutting up more pieces for trim. Cutting this material in half means that I get twice as much material, and it will look a little less chunky. So I'm positioning all the different pieces, making sure that I have enough, and then I'm back using the festool domino to install them onto the panel. This tool is just fantastic for the job. It lets you mount any size material to the middle of a large panel like this, and there's no shown fasteners. The entire system is hidden. Some of the trim will get these dominoes, others will get screws, and others will be just glued. It depends on the piece and where it's going. You can see here that this board is covering up or bridging the joint between the new pieces added on the top and the original panel of the coffee table. The joint was so tight that I didn't even need any clamps, just a lot of pressure and a lot of glue. Here I am installing all the little different pieces of trim. These will be on the back side of the door and will prevent light from shining through from in between the horizontal pieces when the door is closed. These weren't truly necessary, but they'll make the door look better, a little more stable, and provide a little bit cleaner, more complete look. So I worked my way down, cutting each one, gluing it in place, and clamping it. Some of the pieces of wood had holes in them from the old screws and bolts, so I wanted to use them somehow, but I couldn't use screws or bolts that would protrude beyond the surface of the wood. So here I am on the drill press using a special Forstner bit to countersink or drill a flat bottomed hole which will let the head of the bolt, or the nut of the bolt, sit below the surface of the wood. I'm always looking through the pile of original parts to see what I can use. I don't want to use any new hardware on this project because it would look shiny and would look out of place. The best way is to use the old stuff. Now that those nuts sit lower than the surface of the wood, in those flat-bottomed holes, I can cut off the rest of the bolts. And grind off any burrs. There were some screws from the coffee table that I could use to secure some of the trim, but they were too long, so I'll have to cut them off and grind the ends to a point so they'll get started in the hole. Here you can see that if they were any longer, they would actually poke out the other side of the door. I needed a firm connection at the top of the door to mount the sliding door hardware. So here I am laminating two pieces together, lots of glue, some clamps, and that way I'll have a firm attachment point at the top of the door for the brackets that attach to the trap. Now I'll take those two pieces I just glued up, take them to the miter saw to trim up both ends, and then I can install them on top of the door. Well, there simply wasn't enough hardware from the old coffee table, so I had to give in and use a few new screws to mount this top cap trim. This is at the very top of the door, so these screws won't show anyway. Looking at these original feet from the coffee table, I had an idea in mind of how to use them, but at first I had to take them apart and cut them in half. It was a good thing I was wearing an apron. The straps of metal on the end, I didn't think I would have any use for them, and besides that, they were pretty sharp. I didn't want anybody getting hurt, so I cut them off and ground off any burrs. Now that the metal's off, I can take it to the table saw, put it on this sled, which enables me to safely pass the material through the saw, leaving my hands clear of the blade and giving a nice straight cut. I think this piece will be quite funky as a door handle. It's a bit eccentric, a bit chunky, but I like it. We'll see if the homeowners like it or not. The top of the handle, where the metal was that I cut off, was just a bit rough looking, so I thought this little piece of wood would trim it up just nicely. A little bit of sanding on the corners so nobody gets hurt. Don't have to be too perfect, as this is a rustic piece after all. A dab of cyanoacrylate glue, 10 seconds pressure, and it's good to go. Here it is in the master bedroom, master bathroom that I remodeled for this customer. The door is mounted on a fully soft close track system. The homeowners just loved the door, but the handle didn't quite do it for them, so instead it got a more slender matte black handle on the front and a recessed handle on the back. Thanks for watching. Click subscribe if you'd like to see more.